My name is Gino Cavallo on behalf of the Marconi Cultural Center. Welcome to the I.A. Vannini Award of Merit tonight as we honor two of Sault Ste. Marie's finest, Ubriaco and Nanne. I haven't seen this many Italians in one position since the Nina Pinta and Santa Maria left, but it's great to see everybody here. Glad to see everybody got through the metal detectors. Those of you that left knives, you can pick them up after. We are in the West End after all. So thank you for coming. Signore e signori, benvenuto al Centro Culturale Marconi per il banchetto I.A. Vannini. Grazie per aver partecipato stasera. Apprezziamo il tuo supporto e spero che tu abbia una splendida serata con i nostri ospiti speciali Nanne e Ubriaco. Abbiamo un bel pranzo e speriamo che vi divertite con tutti gli amici. Basically, that means have a good time. You're in the West End. So, since we're in the West End, can you hear me okay?
It's breaking up.
What's that? It's breaking up?
Yeah. Can you repeat that?
Can I repeat that? No, I can't, but thank you. So anyway, since we're in the West End, welcome to the Marconi. How'd you get in? You pay? Come and see my tomatoes after. Before we start, I would ask for your attention, and we are going to ask you to please stand as we pay honor to Italy, the USA, and Canada, and first of all, the Italian national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, here to perform the American and Canadian national anthem, we've invited Munja Cake. But since he's in the West End, we'll rename him tonight. Please welcome Jeff McNiche.
Gino doesn't look like that at 5 o'clock in the morning, let me tell you. I feel like I'm at a Sioux Greyhound game. You ready? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, where so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Sing along if you know this one. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command, with glowing heart hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Jeff. At this time, I would like to call on Ida Simon to say the convocation in Italian, and then Nancy Frankamini McDonald will say it in English. Could I have your attention, please, as we say grace, and then we'll have a lovely meal.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. It's a pleasure to see a lot of new faces and a lot of old faces. And welcome to our guests. We'd like to say grace right now in Italian, please. Thank you. Padre Celeste, ci siamo riuniti oggi presso la Marconi per celebrare la cena di Giagia e Vannini. Chiediamo la sua benedizione su tutti i presenti in questa Camera e i nostri amati a casa. Benedice le persone che hanno preparato il cibo con diligenza, con amore e con le loro mani. Siamo consapevoli che niente è possibile senza la vostra benedizione. Chiediamo pertanto che la vostra generosità accordata a coloro che sono malati, persi e soli, possiamo trovare gioia, amore e attraverso la nostra interazione significativa in questo evento chiediamo tutte queste benedizioni nel tuo nome, o Signore. Amen. Enjoy your meal.
And now for the prayer in English. Heavenly Father, we have come together at the Marconi Cultural Center to celebrate the Judge I.A. Vannini dinner. We ask for your blessings on everyone present here this evening and our loved ones at home. Bless the people that have prepared the food diligently and lovingly with their hands. We are aware that nothing is possible without your blessing. We ask, therefore, that your generosity be accorded to those who are sick, who are lost, and who are lonely. May we find joy and love through our meaningful interaction in this event. We ask all these blessings in your name, O Lord. Amen. Bon appetit.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, just one last thing before we meet. Please, they'll be formally introduced a bit later. But let's have a nice, warm Sault Ste. Marie welcome for our guests of honor tonight, Nanne and Ubriaco. Stay right here. Thank you. If either one of them owe you money from the old days, now's the time to collect. Thank you. Can I have your attention? On the stage to my left, you might notice a big wheel of Parmigiano cheese. Reggiano Parmigiano cheese. So at the end of the evening, this has been graciously donated by a colleague of Marconi President Orlando Rosa, and Orlando will specify later on the exact specifics of that. But that block of cheese will be auctioned off at the end of the night via a live auction. So we ask you to please participate in that. And the proceeds will go to the send Gina Ubriaco and Nanne back to the NHL fund. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please, just so you're aware, what we're going to do tonight is keep this very informal. So we do have some presenters and some speakers tonight, and we're going to kind of do it very informally in between courses. So to start the program, please join me in welcoming the Mayor of Sault Ste. Marie, Christian Provenzano.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It is my honor to be here with you and to bring greetings on behalf of City Council in my office. I would like to recognize the Honourable Justice I.A. Vannini Award of Merit Committee members for all of their hard work in selecting tonight's recipients and organizing tonight's dinner. Thank you to all of the sponsors for their support and to the Marconi Club for hosting us and providing what I'm sure will be a fantastic meal. I'd like to recognize Councillor Matthew Shoemaker, who is also here with us tonight. We are here today to celebrate two well-deserved recipients of the Honourable Justice I.A. Vannini Award of Merit, Nanne and Jean Ubriaco. Nanne and Jean Ubriaco are household names in Sault Ste. Marie, both kids from the West End, who we know went on to achieve much professional success, both on and off the ice. I do not want to spend my few moments reviewing their impressive careers or their accomplishments. I expect if I do, I will be sorely eating into someone else's speech, and mine will become much longer than it is supposed to be. I simply want to speak to the significance of their accomplishments, what they mean to our community, and why it is important that we come together to reflect on them. We cannot understate the role Italian immigrants have played in this community. Their hard work and sacrifice helped shape the Sault Ste. Marie that we see today and made life that much easier for the generations like mine that followed. As we all know, many of the original Italian immigrants came to work in the steel plant, and many of us ultimately came from those steel workers. My paternal grandfather was a steel worker. My maternal grandfather was a baker. I have a special affinity for the art at Ubriaco's, and I often spend most of my time when I'm picking up a dinner for two looking at it sentimentally and feeling very proud of the small images of Bluebird Bakery in that art. Knowing that my grandfather and my grandmother did that, and that my mother lived in that bakery growing up, and that I am connected to the history of the West End, that I am ultimately from it. As we all know as well, as Justice Vannini, Nanne, and Jean Ubriaco have demonstrated to us, many of our Italian immigrants, or the children of, or the grandchildren of, found their way to other opportunities and found their way to much success. In doing so, each time someone did so, they showed those of us who followed how to do the same. They showed us the values one needs to meet their goals and what can be accomplished when one does. Values that are at the heart of the Italian-Canadian community as I know it, and I am sure the West End that Lou and Jean grew up in. Friendship, kindness, commitment, and courage. Success and achievement are not subtractive. The accomplishments of one does not take away or diminish the accomplishments of another. Success and achievement are additive. The more that is accomplished, the more likely accomplishment becomes. We can learn from each other's, and we can build upon each other's. In this spirit, I commend Lou and Jean for their accomplishments, for representing our community as well as they have, and most importantly, for their very fine example. It is an example we can all be proud of, it is an example we can learn from, and it is an example we can build upon. You are both very worthy recipients of this evening's recognition, and I'm honored to be here to share it with all of you as the mayor of your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to continue on, there is more food coming, and shortly we're going to have a good old-fashioned West End meal, pasta fagioli. How's that? Please join me in acknowledging our guests of honor this evening. I'm going to tell you a little bit about their playing days, and then their family members will proceed after to talk about some personal stuff. Mr. Gene Ubriaco, born December 26, 1937. Did you get 2 Christmas gifts, Gene? Oh, okay, sorry. Gene's hockey career started in the Sioux when he played juvenile for the Dorans team in 1953-54. Kind of appropriate, he played for a beer-sponsored team. That team went on to win the Northern Ontario and All-Ontario championships. He then signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs, lucky guy, and moved to Toronto to play for the team's junior affiliate, at the time, the Toronto St. Michael's Majors. And Gene, when the Leafs do win the Cup shortly, one day you'll be able to say, that team wanted me to play for them. As his pro career developed, Gene played for several teams in the American Hockey League before making it to the NHL, where he spent time with Chicago, the Oakland Seals, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. When he was finished his playing career, Ubi decided to get into coaching. Really? What's up with that? Ubi began his coaching career at Lake Superior State University in 72-73. 4 years later, he led the Milwaukee Admirals to the Turner Cup playoffs to become the first International Hockey League coach to lead an expansion team into the postseason. In 1988-89, Gene moved on to the National Hockey League to coach the Pittsburgh Penguins. Under his tutelage, the Pens shattered several team records and advanced to the Stanley Cup playoffs after a 7-year absence. He posted a 50, 47, and 9 record with Pittsburgh. Ubi gained international coaching experience by heading up the Italian Olympic team during the 1992 Winter Games in Albertville, France. During his 26 years as a coach in the professional ranks, Gene was honored as Coach of the Year in the U.S. Hockey League, the Eastern Hockey League, the Central Hockey League, and the American Hockey League. Gene is still involved in the game, working as the Director of Hockey Operations and Senior Advisor of the Chicago Wolves, a very successful American Hockey League franchise. Gene served as the Wolves' first head coach and guided the expansion team to a 34-33-14 record and made it to the 1995 Turner Cup playoffs. He compiled a 61-61-20 record with the Wolves during a 3-year span, which included a 2-game interim stint during the 96-97 season. But more than that, Gene dedicates himself to numerous charitable causes, including the American Hearing Impaired Hockey Association, which he has been involved with since 1974. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the Sioux, Mr. Gene Ubriaco. Gene, please stand. Our next guest is no stranger to Sault Ste. Marie, Mike Nanne. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I got the wrong name. Louis Vincent Anthony Nanne, born June 2nd, 1941. Lou, did I miss any other names, or you only had those? Just for now, okay. Lou was born and raised in the Sioux. In 1960, he enrolled at the University of Minnesota and played hockey for the Gophers while studying business administration. Under the coaching tutelage of the great legendary John Mariucci, Lou had become one of the biggest stars in American college hockey during the 60s. In 1967, Lou became a U.S. citizen, which allowed him to play for and captain the U.S. national team. Lou started his playing career in 1968 after signing as a free agent with Minnesota. He spent his entire career in Mini playing 635 NHL regular season games. After his career, Lou became a general manager and coach of the North Stars, as well as for the U.S. entry in the Canada Cup tournaments. He rebuilt the North Stars, and the team eventually reached the Stanley Cup final in 1981, the division finals in '84, and would make it to the playoffs in 7 consecutive seasons. Lou also served as general manager of the U.S. national team in the '81, '84, and '87 Canada Cup tournaments. Lou currently works as a financial investor in the U.S. and also does some broadcasting work and does some charity work as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the Sioux, Sweet Lou from the Sioux, Mr. Lou Nanne. And with that, Gene and Lou, enjoy your pasta fajoule. We'd like to continue with our program this evening as we honor our guests this evening. But before I call up our next speaker, how about a nice round of applause for Mr. Nino DePasco, who's in the corner there, providing the entertainment. Thank you, Nino. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Gene Ubriaco's daughter. Please welcome Francine Ubriaco Gassi, who will make a few comments about her dad. Francine.
Hi, Gabe. Buonasera a tutti. Welcome to friends, family, distinguished guests, and a special welcome to our honorees. Tonight we are celebrating Italian Heritage Month, and as part of this month, we are honoring two of Sault Ste. Marie's finest native sons. My dad, Gene Ubriaco, aka Ubi, and my uncle Lou Nanne, aka Sweet Lou from the Sioux. I would like to thank the board members of the Justice I.A. Vannini Award, as well as the Marconi Society executives and members for this prestigious award. I'm honored to have this opportunity to speak about my absolutely amazing father. December 26, 1937, Eugene Stephen Ubriaco was born, the youngest of 5 children, including Josephine, Johnny, Mary, my Aunt Doreen, who is here tonight, to Caroline and Frank Ubriaco. I wish my grandparents could be here tonight. They would be so proud to be part of this celebration, but I sincerely believe in my heart they are here with us in spirit. Nothing was more important to my grandpa and my grandma than faith and family, and our life was always centered around the church, our beloved Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and the Marconi Hall. Dad's fondest memories were of the times he spent as an altar boy with his buddies, serving Mass and enjoying the events in the church basements, eating the wonderful food by the CWL. Dad still craves tuna pizza. My grandfather was always very proud of his initials and his name. My grandpa Frank always said, "The only thing that you bring to you into the grave is your name." So proudly, I was named after my grandfather Frank. That being said, my initials are FU. So, as the daughter of a professional athlete, we traveled to 14 different cities to support my dad and his hockey career. Imagine the teasing that I had to endure. Every time the teacher introduced me on the first day as Francine Ubriaco, there was always some lament that would yell out, "Hey, F you!" And then no matter where we were, there was some kid who was fluent in Italian, and he would say, "And she's drunk, too. F you, the drunk." It was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for naming that. Things were not always easy for a girl named F.U., but my dad, being the father and the coach that he was, guided me through the hard times and the good times. And isn't that what we're here to celebrate tonight? The life and times of Eugene Stephen Ubriaco, hockey player, coach, artist, and above all, the world's greatest dad. Now, I could stand here all night and talk to you about my dad's career in hockey, spanning 7 decades, but before I get to that, I would like to talk to you about my father, Gene Ubriaco, the father, my father. There are so many things that stand out in my memory as a young girl and how my dad influenced me. It was my dad and my grandfather who gave me the love of music and theater. I remember as a young girl, my dad taking me to the theater downtown Chicago to see a play called Pearlie. You remember that? And that changed my life forever. It was at that point that I embarked in my theater career as a young girl. My grandfather played the mandolin, and Dad decided that I would play the violin. He always seemed to make the right choices for me, whether it was music, theater, or sports. He somehow knew that he wasn't going to be around as much as other fathers because of his hockey career, so he planned out my adolescent life to keep me grounded and guide me in the right directions as a young girl, something I will always be grateful to him. But this night is not about me. It's about him, and I would like to talk to you about some of the memories that I have, hockey memories. How do you sum up 70 years in just a few short moments? Although I cannot tell you the stories of his life on the ice or in the locker room, I can tell you stories about our life around him. Dad attended St. Michael's College, that's Gabriel St. Mary's, where he played alongside guys like Frank Mahovlich and Dick Duff. His roommate was none other than Tim Horton. I remember Sunday skates with the Blackhawks with Bobby Hall and Stan Mikita and Uncle Tony, and my dad would pick me up in his arms and glide me around the rink. I'll never forget that feeling. I felt like I was flying. Dad's playing career spanned from 1958 to 1970, playing for such teams as Baltimore Clippers, Hershey Bears, Pittsburgh Penguins, Oakland Seals, Chicago Blackhawks, and more. I remember when Dad got traded to Oakland. It was Christmas, and we had to be in Chicago for the next game. We had to fly there, but Dad had just purchased a new yellow Oldsmobile. He was so proud of that car. So he hired a guy, just a guy, to drive the car across the desert. Guess what? The car, nor the car filled with Christmas gifts, ever arrived. The police found the car deserted somewhere. Should have had consulted Angie's List, Dad. Stan Mikita started calling him Lucky Lindy, as this wasn't the first car mishap. After the Blackhawks, Dad decided to go back to school for law at LSSU, but then decided to go into coaching instead. Thank God. As far as Dad's coaching career, I'll never forget the day that my mom and I were in the airport picking him up when he was coaching in Nashville, the South Stars. We knew that Dad had fallen in love with country music, which was very shocking to us because he was a huge Frank Sinatra fan. Apparently, the Oak Ridge Boys and Conway Twitty were huge hockey fans. They loved my dad, and they all became great friends. However, they also had an influence on my dad. Please let me explain. My mother and I were standing at the window waiting for my dad to come off of the plane and wondering where he was. Everyone was exiting, but no Dad. All of a sudden, we see a man with long hair, tighter than normal blue jeans, sporting this large white Stetson and shiny new cowboy boots walking across the tarmac. We watched him in complete awe, not knowing how we should react. We should laugh or if we should cry. And finally, I looked over at my poor mother, and she just silently turned to me and she said, "Oh Lord, he's gone country on me." One of the most exciting and memorable times I remember was when my dad was a coach in Pittsburgh. Dad was coaching the Pittsburgh Penguins playing against the New York Rangers in the semifinals. As I recall, there were 3 boys from the Sioux in that series. Tony Esposito was the general manager. My dad, Gene Ubriaco, was the head coach of the Penguins, and Phil Esposito was the manager and temporary coach of the Rangers, as his head coach had got thrown out for that game. 3 Italian West End boys from the Sioux. The Penguins swept the series against the Rangers. Their first-year record was 40, 33, and 7. What a thrill. Dad started a hockey league with Stan Mikita, the American Hearing Impaired Hockey Association, which just celebrated its 46th year anniversary. Every year, young boys and girls forget about being hearing impaired, and all they think about is being hockey players. My dad has thousands of kids, boys and girls, that call him Dad, Coach, but most of all, they all love him. He was very inspirational in helping Manon Rayon get to the NHL, the first woman in professional NHL sports. Woo. He always makes sure when he speaks to the young women who are playing hockey today, he always tells them about her, and he always tells them, the sky is the limit, ladies. And in 1992, he coached the Italian Olympic team in Albertville, France. Anyone who knows my dad will tell you what a generous and honest man he is. My dad always tries to help anyone in need, not often telling anyone what he is doing. He was always proud of his Italian heritage and his childhood growing up in the West End, as he called it. Although he lived most of his life in the States, Dad never forgot his hometown roots. Dad's artwork always portrays his life in the Sioux. Boyhood memories of a simpler time. His artwork speaks to you. Each picture tells a story. The whisper of his hometown, the sounds of the marketplace, the laughter of him and his gang, and the sight of all the family-run businesses. One can almost smell the aromas of the street, the fresh bread from the bakeries, the horse-drawn vegetable carts, the meat markets, Algoma steel, and of course, the smell of all the home cooking coming from every home in the West End. Dad's artwork is for sale and on display tonight in the front foyer. And all the proceeds tonight will be going to the Marconi Hall. Thank you. All coaches have their signature quotes. These are usually phrases or expressions that coaches use to get their points across. Vince Lombardi had his famous quote, "Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing." The legendary John Wooden always said, "Be quick, but don't be in a hurry." My dad also has some great quotes. Some I can share with you, some I can't. These are some quotes that I have learned to apply to my everyday life and my job and with my family. Make everyone better off for having met you. To him, this means being friendly, lending a helping hand, a smile to someone who needs it, or teaching someone something. He used to always preach this to his players as well. I always found these great words to live by. You don't have to be in the major leagues to be a major leaguer. My dad spent 8 years as a player in the minor leagues before he made it to the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1967. He then spent 15 years as a coach in the minor leagues before he got his shot at the NHL. I never once saw him get discouraged or complain that his situation was unfair. His goal was to get to the NHL, and he wanted it very badly. He wasn't going to be denied. In 1986, he was a finalist for the job with the New York Rangers head coaching. He was one of 2 candidates at the very end, but he wasn't hired. I remember feeling very bad for him and thinking he was angry about not getting the job. Sensing my frustration, he said to me, "You don't have to be in the major league to be a major leaguer." He explained that being a major league person was more about your attitude and how you approach the job or role you currently have. He wasn't going to be defined by the league he was coaching in. He was going to define himself. That quote made me realize that I can control the way I act, the way I react, and my attitude toward life. Actions are what define a major league person, not our status. Don't stain the brand. Dad used to always say that our last name was like a brand. Sorry. It linked us to everyone else who shared that brand name. He, my mom, my brother, my grandparents, and my future kids were all members of the Ubriaco brand. He told me the best thing he could give me was a good name, and in turn, the best thing I could give my kids was a good name. He always said that there are some mistakes in life that will permanently stain the brand. Some mistakes you never stop paying for. Stealing, lying, committing crimes would all damage our name, and those of us who shared it with us. He also said that this rule applied to schools that we attended and jobs that we worked at. As always, the advice he had given us has been shared with his teams. I can remember every time he ended practice, he reminded his players that they were constantly being scrutinized as professional athletes, and he would remind them not to stain the brand. Be an outdoor cat. I know, it sounds strange, but he did say it. Dad always used this term in applying it to hockey. My brother asked him one day what that meant, and he said that a team could never have too many outdoor cats. He said an outdoor cat was like a tough guy. He explained the difference between an indoor cat and an outdoor cat. Outdoor cats had to hunt for food, and they would get into fights with other cats, and they'd have to find shelter. They had to face a lot of adversity. While the indoor cats had their food brought to them, never had any conflicts, and slept in a warm house. I love that analogy. I got the message. Outdoor cats are self-reliant. Indoor cats depend on everyone else for everything. Omerta. Having a coach as a father, we were always privy to information that wasn't meant to be repeated. What was said in the locker room stayed in the locker room, and what was said at home stayed at home. Omerta is an Italian word that refers to a code of silence taken by the members of La Cosa Nostra, also known as the Mafia. Being of Italian descent, we understood what omerta meant, and my dad made sure that he reminded us of that each time he shared information with us, especially when my father was on the phone with my uncle Angelo, because when those two are talking, the neighbors could hear them talking. Omerta. Surgeons and plumbers. There are two types of hockey players according to my dad, surgeons and plumbers. Both, he would say, are equally as important to a hockey team. Surgeons were players with great hands, good speed and agility, guys who could score goals, skill guys. Plumbers were the guys who weren't afraid to do the dirty work, dig pucks out of the corner, stand in front of the goal, and screen the goalie, drop the gloves, and fight if need be. Too many surgeons on a team wouldn't work. You always need toughness. Too many plumbers on a team wouldn't work. You always need talent to win. Great teams have the right balance between surgeons and plumbers. My dad is to this day very active in hockey with the Chicago Wolves franchise as the hockey operation and senior advisor. Dad has been an inspiration and mentor to many players, and tonight we honor him with the prestigious Justice I.A. Vannini Award. This honor is one I know he will hold close to his heart. Although he has achieved many great accomplishments and awards, my dad always says that his greatest accomplishment is being married to my mother, Nella. Dad says he could have never done anything without her by her side. Dad proudly tells the time that he was playing junior hockey in Sudbury with the Wolves, sitting in a coffee shop with one of his teammates, and this stunning young woman walked in. She was from the thriving metropolis of Coppercliff, the little Italy of Sudbury. It was love at first sight. Dad said to his friend, "Hey, you see that girl sitting over there? I'm gonna marry her." The guy said, "Yeah, sure you are." Dad was always determined to get what he wanted, and on May 19, 1962, they were married. For 56 years, my dad has been dating my mom. She is his soulmate, his partner, his confidant, his rock, his muse, his best friend, and the love of his life. A love affair that has lasted through good times and bad, through wins, losses, and ties in over 2,641 games so far. So if I could just kindly ask you, I'm going to raise my glass and give a toast to my father. Dad, we are so very proud of you. My brother wanted to be here this evening so badly, but he is currently taking his master's in education in Ohio. I just wanted to thank my hubby for helping me do this speech. On behalf of my brother Gene, myself, and all of your grandchildren, 4 of whom are here this evening, thank you, Dad, for everything that you have done and given us. You are an inspiration and a role model every day. A true major leaguer. Simply Dad. Ti amo, Daddy. Cheers.
Thank you, Francine. While we continue the meal, we'd like to move on with the program. First of all, hope you all enjoyed the food. How about a nice hand for Rosetta, Janice, and the staff at the Marconi? Thank you very much. Wonderful meal. Very well done. This time it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Mike Nanne, brother of Lou, who will have a few words on behalf of the Nanne family. Mike Nanne.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Nanne. I'm Lou's brother. I'm not Gino's twin brother. I just like to say a couple of preliminary comments. I don't know who was on the organizing committee, but I think somebody on that committee either went to McFadden or St. Mary's Elementary School and failed geography, because it says west end of the tracks. Here we are at the Marconi, on the east end of the tracks. I think the dinner should have been either at the New Toronto Hotel or the Beaver. When Frank Sarlo asked me if when Frank Sarlo asked me to introduce my brother, my first reaction was, why the hell should I? He never did anything for me. And then he said, your ticket's free. I said, well, looking at the meal, which was a great meal, I'm glad I took him up on it. But then I come here and they say you're sitting at the head table. The last time two times I was at the head table at a wedding, I had to pay for it. So I hope you all bought your own tickets. Before I go any further, I'd like to congratulate Jeannie Ubriaco on winning the award. And I'm very happy to say that Nella is now speaking to me. She may not be remembered, but I was 10 years old when they got married, and I was the altar boy for Father Valarosi. And Father Val says, a domino ring. And I'm going to bring him the rings, and she says, no, no, no. I brought the rings, and the ceremony went off anyway, so she's forgiven me for the marriage. And Jeannie, me, and my three buddy altar boys want to thank you for the 50 cents you put in the envelope. Now to my brother Louis. He's more like a father to me than a brother. And that's not because he treated me as a son either. He's just so much older. How do you talk about Louis? Well, there's so many attributes, so many flaws. So you have to pick a few of them. So I thought I would focus on three things. And the three things that I would focus on would be, one, he's a little superstitious, or a lot superstitious. Two, he's the most unmechanical person I've ever met. And three, he was a first at a lot of things he's done. So that's where I'll go. Lou Nanne was the first defenseman to win the scoring championship in the NCAA. He was also the first student to work at the Sioux Locks, and when they asked him to put the motor on the boat, he forgot to hook it up and dropped it in the lake. He was the first person from Sault Ste. Marie to be inducted into the United States Hockey Hall of Fame. He was also the first person to pull into his father's driveway in the car, and his little brother Michael come running out and rap on the window and say, "Louis, can I get in the car?" And he'd roll the window down this much, and he said, "No, you can't." And I said, "Why?" He says, "It's the bottom of the ninth. The Tigers are beating the Yankees 2-1. If I let you in the car, they'll lose." Lou Nanne was the first person to raise $190 million for the University of Minnesota athletic facilities. He was also the first person to steal a bottle of wine out of his brother's suitcase when he stayed at his house because he didn't think he had that kind. Lou Nanne was the first person from Sault Ste. Marie to be inducted into the International Ice Hockey Federation of Fame. He's also the first person to buy a farm and then buy 2 cows in the spring to fatten them up in the fall so he could cut them for steaks when he was in the NHL. And in the fall, they both lost 250 pounds. Lou Nanne was the first person from Sault Ste. Marie to win the Lester Patrick Outstanding Service to Hockey in the United States. He was also the first person to buy a brand new fancy car and bring it back to the dealer 3 times because he didn't know where the CD went. Lou Nanne was the first person to win the Outstanding Achievement Award from the University of Minnesota. He was also the first person to go out and buy a book on the beauty of birds 1 week, and the next week go buy a pellet gun because the woodpeckers were eating his roof. He was also the first person from Sault Ste. Marie to win the United States Distinguished Achievement Award. He was also the first person in his first year at the University of Minnesota to go into a convenience store and ask the clerk for an English bread and a Sioux Star. And the clerk said, "We don't have English bread. What is it?" He says, "You know the kind you get from Bluebirds or Rossi's?" And she says, "We don't have that." He says, "It's right there." She says, "That's sliced bread." "What's a Sioux Star?" "We don't have that." "Well, what's that?" "That's the Minnesota Tribune." "That's a Sioux Star." I guess that tells the story. You can take the boy out of the West End, but you can't take the West End out of the boy. There's an old Italian saying, not Italian, but he used to say at our house and around there, where he used to say, "He comes from good stock." Now, as a kid, good stock, I thought a livestock, a farm, you're going to have a good steak. But as I got older, I started to learn that coming from good stocks was your gene pool. And I guess Louis has come from good stock. His uncle Albert Boniferro was a recipient of this award. His grandfather, V. Greco, our Nono Jim, was also a winner of this award. I don't know if Louis won this because of achievement or his genes, but congratulations. Anyway, you know what they say, don't poke the bear too much. So I'm going to leave it at that because there are a lot more achievements that he's made, but then I'd have to find a lot more flaws, which wouldn't be that hard. Talking about poking the bear, Louis is also one of the first individuals to have too many adult beverages and wrestle a bear in the bar. But that's a story for another time. Congratulations, Nono Louie.
Mike Nanne, he's here all week, ladies and gentlemen. Before we continue, I'd like to acknowledge another gentleman who is in the crowd this evening. And since we're celebrating the West End and hockey achievements, this gentleman has been very influential in the lives of many hockey people, and we're so glad that he's with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Angelo Bumbaco's with us tonight. Angelo, thank you. And also with us this evening, a longtime member of the Marconi. He's done so much work for the Marconi and for the country of Canada. His Honour Justice Ray Stortini, right? Thank you. Also, my pleasure to acknowledge the people that make this club tick. The president of the Electro Marconi Society, Nancy Fragamini. McDonald, Nancy, where are you? Thank you. And the president of the G. Marconi Society, Mr. Orlando Rosa, is with us this evening. Orlando? So at this time, I would like to call on Ray Stortini, Orlando, and Nancy to officially present the I.A. Vannini Award to Jean and Lou, please.
I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming here tonight. It means a lot to us. I think this has been a great success. I also want to thank our honored guests for coming, making the trip. I know that you have busy lives, and we certainly appreciate your coming here, and I think this has been a great experience. And I think we're going to enjoy your speeches when you come to the podium. Also like to thank our speakers, FU and company, Mike. We really enjoyed that. And I really want to thank the Marconi, the ladies of the Marconi, for putting on this great event. And I want to thank the committee for putting this together. And I've got to give a lot of quite a bit of recognition to Frank Sarlo. Frank spearheaded this. Let's thank Frank. Harvey Barsanti, Jack O'Neill, Jerry Bumbaco, Vince Fernelli, Nancy, and Ida Simon. Thank all of you for the great job that you've done. And I want to thank Gino Cavallo. Gino's done a wonderful job here tonight. Okay? So without further ado, perhaps Jean and Jean can come up and we'll present the award, and Lou as well. So come on up and we'll present the awards. Nancy?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And your daughter. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, okay, well, that's bad. I'm not bad.
Nancy.
Oh, you want to do a little picture? Sure. Great. We're getting inside. Okay. Drove along.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Congratulations, Dad.
Thank you. Congratulations, winners of the I.A. Vannini Award of Merit, Jean Ubriaco and Lou Nanne. Let's have a nice round of applause for them. Great job. So again, just a reminder, once our guests of honor have spoken, we're going to have a nice little auction. Nice big cheese over there. Reggiano Parmigiano. Orlando Rosa has leaned on one of his friends to generously donate that to the Marconi, and we'll raffle it off. And I'm just going to start by telling you the value of that is $1,500. Yes. So if you want to get together with a couple of families and eat together for the next 8 months, have lots of pasta dinners, that'd be a great prize for you. So ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it is my pleasure to officially introduce our guest of honor. And first, we'll hear from Mr. Lou Nanne. Lou.
Thank you very much. Hello. Thank you, and this is the first time I've ever been at a banquet with a guy with a cheese name, Gino Cuscavallo. Nice to be here. My brother had a lot to say, and all it tells you is I dropped him on his head too many times when he was growing up. You know, he looks at me as his father, and that's because fathers always give. I've been giving him stuff for the whole life of mine. He's been a cost item ever since he's been born. But I want you to know something. First of all, I thought this was the first night. I didn't know our grandfather wanted. Really, though, this is really a unique story. When I was 16 years old, I was thinking about becoming a lawyer. And my father was very good friends with I.A. Vannini, so I ended up working for Judge I.A. Vannini at 16. And I used to go with him to court. In those days, you know, you couldn't drink, the blue laws that we used to have here, and we had about 3 bootleggers on Allen Street alone. So we used to go out, and before the case, my cousin Jimmy Greco was the judge too, so we'd go down, Mrs. Vannelli would have $25, Mrs. Sting had $50, whatever it was, how many times they got caught, and we'd settle it before we started. So I have an association with Judge Vannini going a long way back. But, you know, there's one thing we had in hockey. We have a saying, and it's do your job. Do your job. You take a guy like John Ferguson, he knew what his job was. You know, sometimes a guy comes in the league as a crusher, he scores 2 goals, he wants to be a rusher, and the next thing you know, we make him an usher. But Ferguson used to do his job. He knew that he was an enforcer. Nobody was going to get in the way of his players, even in the summer. If he's walking down the street and a player of the opposing team that he played against during the year was walking the same side of the street, he'd cross over. He didn't want to know him, didn't want to like him. He didn't want to have anything to do with him because he had to kick the hell out of him. So, Michael, do your job from now on. Get back to being a dentist. You know, we grew up in Sault Ste. Marie, and I want to tell you before I tell a few stories about Ubi, but one of the things about the West End, and I'm proud to say it, is it really gave us the right family values. And I think that's what carried over for me and my family and so many of us from the West End. And you know, the Italians, we all know, are very proud, loyal, fiery, volatile, passionate, caring people. So just saying hello sometimes it seems like they're in a fight. But we do know that we are also stubborn. And I think that's the worst part. And I'm very stubborn, but the worst part is when we can't give up our stubbornness to get over some family quarrels. But overall, if you look at the way we've grown up and who we are and what happens to us as people, I think that's what something sets us apart from many, many other nationalities, and it's really something I'm proud of. And I carried it over into Sault Ste. Marie, from Sault Ste. Marie to Minneapolis, because I'm living in a pretty affluent community there, a suburb of Edina. And in the U.S., it just becomes happenstance that when kids get spring break, they all go somewhere, and especially in Edina. They'll go to Florida, they'll go to Mexico, Cancun, who knows. And our children used to come to us all the time, and they'd say to Francine and I, where are we going for spring break? And I told them so often I can't count the number of times. But I say, where do I take you in the summer? And they'd say, Sault Ste. Marie. I said, you know why you go to Sault Ste. Marie? They said, no. I said, because kids from Sault Ste. Marie don't go anywhere in spring break. You're from the Sioux. And And I can honestly tell you, they never went anywhere for spring break. And the same thing with a car. My daughter graduates from high school. She's, what kind of car do I get? Michelle, you're from the Sioux. Kids don't get cars when they graduate in the Sioux. So thank you very much, West End, for saving us and my wife and I a lot of money. And I want to set the record straight. By the way, my brother's crazy. Those cows didn't lose 250 pounds. They lost 45 pounds each. And I didn't know I was supposed to feed them. I had a lot of grass. Now, I didn't realize I got gourmet cows or something. They had to eat something beside grass. I put a salt block out there. What else do they need? Salt block and grass. And the guy says to me, Louis, the grass is 4 feet high. What are they going to get in their hind legs? I said, well, why'd they let it get so tall? They should have ate it before. So I did trade him in on fatter cows. Cesar Maniago, Marie Oliver, and myself. We had nice steaks after that. But you know, growing up, Ubi will probably tell you the same thing. Ubi's a lot older than me. He looks it too, by the way. But I used to go to the Umbri, I used to go, Umbri, can you come out and play? And we used to, you know, play together, and he was older, and I used to look up to Ubi. And now I'm looking down about 1.5 feet on him. But as we grew older, and then we started playing against one another. And I got to tell you this story because I told this story to Phil Esposito. Now, Phil uses it like it happened to me and him. And we hear the story and say, why would Phil even say that? But we were playing the last game of the year. I'm with the North Stars, he with the Oakland Seals. I'm going into the rink. Who's waiting for me? Umbri. Louis. I said, what's the matter? He says, come over here, I got to talk to you. I said, what's up? He said, it's our last game of the year. I said, I know, the game doesn't mean anything. He said, I got 19 goals. I said, so what? He said, I got a $2,000 bonus if I get 20. I said, and he says, can you help me out? And I said, Caesar's in the net, Maniago, and he went to school and played with Caesar at St. Mike's. I said, Caesar's in the net. He says, okay, good. I said, now just do what I say when you come down the other. Just do what I say. I'm playing defense, he's playing forward. He comes on the first period, he's coming to me, I said, okay, go to the left side, go to the left side. So I go to the right side, he comes to the right side and knock him down. This is going on, second period, shoot through my legs. I keep my legs open, he hits me in the shin pad. Third period, I said, go to the inside. I go to the outside, he goes outside and knock him down. Halfway through the third period, he still hasn't got a shot on goal. Caesar's all lined up. I mean, all he got to do is flutter it at the net. He's going to get $2,000. He comes on again, and I knock him down by mistake. He looks up, he says, for Christ's sake, play your own game. I got a better chance. He didn't get it. No, Esposito goes out and tells a story like me and him, and he's trying to get a goal. He gets 50 a year. What the hell is he worried about? Are you kidding me? There's no chance. By the way, I look at Angelo. Every one of us guys, and they paid a little tribute to him. You cannot pay enough tribute to this guy. Every one of us from the Sioux. And we talk about legends. There is the Sioux's legend. I want you to remember that. And we all are indebted to him. Now, after we finished playing, and I'm running the North Stars, I hire Ubi's coach. So I got Ubi coaching for me all over the place. We had a team in Baltimore, East Coast League team, and we're sitting up there in a crowd, and we got this guy, Ronnie Friest, and there was another tall, skinny guy from Victoria, but they get in a big fight, and all of a sudden we hear this blood-curdling scream. I don't know if you remember it. And this kid bit Friest's finger. And it's, Christ almighty, we can't have that. And Sommer looks at me and says, I love hungry hockey players. So we give him to Ubi. So Ubi's in Baltimore, and he's running the team in Baltimore. And after a game, I'd always check on my players. I want to know what went on. We finished playing, I'm sitting in my room, and it's about 1 o'clock in the morning, Minneapolis time. It's 2 o'clock out there in Baltimore. So I call Ubi. I'm trying, no cell phones then. I can't find Ubi. He's not home. I can't find him. So I called information in Baltimore. I said, give me the best Italian restaurant you got in Baltimore. Sabatoni's or what was it? Sabatino's. I get Sabatino's. So I call Sabatino's. It's supposed to be closed. The guy answered. I said, hey, there's a guy in there. He's a short guy, and he hangs around there, I'll bet, all the time. His name's Ubriaco. Go get him to the phone. 2 minutes later, hello? I said, Ubi, it's Louis. I found you. That's what I used to do to him. So now, you know, I got to move the team around. I move them up into the was the Central League then, which is equivalent to the American League, and we want to have a team in Nashville. So I sent them to Nashville. I got them in Nashville. So every week I'm getting these songs written by me, back from me. I'm looking at it, he says, you got me truck, because we used to travel by bus. I don't know when he ever flew in a plane to get that. We didn't pay for planes. But he'd write a song every time. He says, if I don't make it as a coach, I'm going to make it as a country western writer. So now then I got him going to Birmingham. And I sent him to Birmingham. So after, you know, I guess he went coach with Pittsburgh there. And then I retired in '91 from the National Hockey League, and I go into another business. '93, the U.S. team calls me and he says, Louis, we want you to manage the team at the World Championship. I said, I'm all done doing that stuff. I'm not doing it anymore. They said, well, just 2 weeks. I said, I'm not doing that stuff anymore. They said, it's in Milan, you can take your wife. I said, I'm doing it. So we started off in Val di Fosse, and I'm with the American team. Ubi's coaching the Italian team. So we're in different brackets. The finals, the round robin comes, it's back in Milan. And we're in Milan, and my team is playing against the Finns. Now, if we beat the Finns, the Swedes are out. If the Finns beat us, the Swedes are in. The first 5 minutes of the game, the Swedish referee's refereeing the game against us. He gives us 4 penalties. We're down 3-0. I'm not handling it very well. This keeps going. At the end of the game, we lose 5-4. So I'm coming down now. I haven't seen Gene in about 6 years. I'm coming down, I'm going after the referee, and I'm coming, here comes Gene. He says, Louis. I said, not now, Ubi. 5 minutes. Well, I go and I start giving it to the referee, and he's trying to see who I am, and I won't tell him, so he finally pushes me. I'm able to throw him down and do some stuff, and next thing you know, I got a big hearing. Who's my one and only witness was Ubi. When I got up top off that referee, I said, Ubi, you're my witness. He pushed me first. So I always stayed indebted to Ubi. But I'll tell you one thing, the thing about the kids in the Sioux, and most of us lived in the West End one time or the other, and all of us played for Angelo, and it's really a unique thing to think of the success that guys from the Sioux had in the National Hockey League. There is nothing comparable to it that I can think of. When we started, it was 40,000 people. One time we had 6 guys in the National Hockey League. Now that just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So it's really something to be proud of. It's something of our heritage. It's something that developed here. And I always tell people, I said, they wonder why we're successful. I says, because Italians are competitive, they're hardworking, they're honest, and they don't quit. And I think that's something that we all have been fortunate enough to be brought up with, learn, and develop. And I really have to tell you, we had 3 general managers in the National Hockey League at one time, and there were 21 teams. That's unheard of. In fact, it was 1988. That was my last draft. I drafted Modano that year. I'm managing in Minnesota North Stars. Phil Esposito's managing the New York Rangers. Tony Esposito's managing Pittsburgh Penguins. And it's 5 minutes before the draft, and I get this bright idea. Now, I made over 100 trades. I made more trades than anybody. And I thought about it. I said, I made all these trades. And then I'm going to quit in 5 minutes, well, right after the draft, but 5 minutes the draft starts. So I said, Phil, Tony, come over here. So they both come up and say, what's up, what's up? I said, look, 3 guys from the Sioux. 3 guys from the Sioux here. I said, we got to go out, this got to be our legacy. We're going to make a three-way trade. And Tony, of course, you're trying to screw me, Louis. I mean, this guy is the most distrustful guy I've ever seen in life. So I said, no, we're going to make a deal. We're going to make a deal. No, Louis, I know you're up to something. I said, Phil, what do you need? He says, I need a left winger. I said, okay, I'll give you McKechnie. Tony, what do you need? No, you guys you're trying to pull something on me. So it ended up, I traded McKechnie for Mark Hardy. Tony sat it out, but that was my final trade in the league. And I always go back to thinking about dealing with Tony, because in 1987, I had him get his American paper so he could play with us I was managing the Canada Cup team, and we were playing, and so I needed a goaltender, and I got Tony. And by the way, I used to bitch about this guy all the time to the referees, because his pads were about this big when he should be this big. And so when I became general manager and Scotty Morrison was referee in chief, we played Chicago. I says, Scotty, you get your ass in there. I want Tony's pads measured. He'd go in, come out, he said, they're perfect. So we're playing 87, now Tony's playing for me. We're playing an exhibition game against the Czechs. Scotty Morrison's the referee-in-chief working the series. He says, Louis, tell Tony I'm coming in at 1 o'clock to check his pads. I says, fine. It's Tony, Scotty's coming in at 1 o'clock to check the pads. He says, perfect. So I'm sitting there, and I watch. Scotty comes in, measures the pads, perfect. Amazing to me. Scotty goes out, he pulls out a razor, cuts the pads, the whole length, stuffs it all with cotton bat, and they go to about another 3 inches. So I knew that this guy was pulling this stuff all the time. So we play a game in Quebec City. We finish the game. We fly back to Toronto. We're staying at the Sheraton Hotel downtown Toronto. And we get there, now it's 2 o'clock in the morning. We check in, and we all go to rooms. Now I'm the general manager. I got a suite, it's big, it's the Prime Minister's suite, as big as this room. It's so big, I can't find my bedroom. So I get the phone, I call the guy downstairs, you gotta come up here and tell me where the bedroom is. So the guy comes up and tells me where the bedroom is. He goes back down, I pick up the phone, I says, give me Tony Esposito's room. By now he's, nodded off to sleep. Phone rings, yeah. I said, Tony, it's Louis, get your ass down here. I'm not coming down, I'm sleeping. I said, get your ass down here if you want to play again. Oh, Christ almighty, Louis, it's 2:30. I said, get your ass down here now. So he comes to my room, and I got my door open, so I hear, I think we only got one room on the floor. I hear the elevator. I got a pool table, I got a bar, I got everything, dining room tables, and I got a grand piano. So I hear him coming, I start playing Old Man River on the river. And he walks in, I said, sit down, grab a beer. I said, 2 guys from the Sioux, how do you like this? And I got to tell you, I can go on and on with the memories, and they all started right here, right in this place. I got married in this hall. Our families, Phil and Tony down the street, Ubi up in the James Street, all of the guys from the Sioux, it all revolves around this. So I want to thank you very much for the award. Thanks for being here. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Lou. Outstanding. Mike, you're out. Lou, you're in.
I wanted it second.
Outstanding. Thank you very much, Lou. Congratulations. And now, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please join me in welcoming our other guest of honor, Mr. Gene Ubriaco. Gene?
Okay.
You all right, buddy?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you hear me fine?
There we go.
Here we go?
There we go. You've got to speak loud.
Oh, wow. After the grand entrance, my voice is gone, so we're going to give it a go anyway. But anyway, one of the, I've got to find my start here. 1 second. Thank you. I got to thank my daughter. That was sensational. And My dad used to call her Farenzina, or Bella Papa. That was her name. Before I like to get started, I would like to have a toast to the Marconi Society executive for putting on this wonderful celebration. We might as well get a little more wine here because I'm going to make a few toasts. And here's to the committee and everyone else. Thank you very, very much. Here's to you. You know, Lou and I are glad. I don't know about you, but Louis, doesn't this feel like a wedding? like Louis and I are getting married. I mean, we had the reception line. Beautiful. You know, we're all, and I have to give you a message. We have to keep doing this. You have to keep this hall going. It's so important. Louis said it all. We all come from here. It's such a tradition. We have to keep this going. And please do that for our grandchildren and all the youngsters that are out here, because this is one great place. Like for Louis and I, it's a wedding, but you know, it's a platonic, it's a platonic relationship. I want you to make sure you all know that. I mean, I gotta tell you about my wedding. My wife says, check the mic. My wedding. I got to tell you first about the rehearsal. The rehearsal was with Father Valrosi. And Father Valrosi, when he does something, he does it properly. So we're at the altar there, and he says, Jenny, he called me Jenny, and Nella, I want you to know that this has to be done real nice. So when I go like this, you stand up. When I go like this, you sit down. When I go like this, you kneel down. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so so we're going through this, and he says, "Who's the best man?" I said, Red Rossi. Oh, that's a nice name. Red Rossi. He says, Red, you have the rings? Yes. He says, I have the rings. He says, well, I want you to know, Red, when you don't put the rings into your pocket, nice and loose. I don't want them in a box. Don't keep them in a box. You have them loose. So when the little altar boy comes by and he says to you, he puts the plate in front of you, you put the rings nice on the plate. And Jenny, when I say with this ring I do what, you just take the ring and you put the ring on the first knuckle. You put it this far, okay? Don't put it any farther. First one, he says, because at one time I had this immigrant guy. He said, can you believe it? He said, he tried to put the ring on and he couldn't get the ring down on the finger. So God strike me dead. He take the ring and he go like this, and he shove it down the ring. So don't do that. He says, just put it up to the first knuckle. Of course, I got to tell you about the wedding. Now, the wedding was here at the hall, and I got to tell you, it was amazing. I mean, obviously, you had Mino Pizzuto and the Merry Men playing da-da-da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-da-da-dun. And then you got the pizzas going this way and that way, people dancing. Then there's the Grand March. We're all standing up the Grand March. I, like a dummy, I invited about 4 of my teammates to the game, or to the wedding, the game. And sure enough, they made fools of themselves because One guy went up on the stage, started telling dirty jokes. Another guy went out to my car, and he tied my car to a tree. I think the tree is still standing out there. And my dad went out to go and get some more prosciutto because we didn't run out. And he tried to drive the car, and he couldn't drive the car, and he's almost tore out the transmission of my brand new 60 Impala. You know, there were 5 grocery stores in the West End. Actually, there were 5 grocery stores, 2 shoe stores, 2 hardware stores, clothing stores, barbers, hairdressers, pool halls, a taxi stand, and a church, and 4 churches, and a partridge in a pear tree. We had it all. I mean, that was a life. For me, going out onto the street, that's when I felt alive. I'm sorry, but I'm losing my pages. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to give you another toast here, and it's going to be for a fellow that we talked about, and Louis gave him a great toast, and I'm going to do the same thing. But this is to a former goalie. We call him School of Pasta. And you know him as Angelo Bombaco. Angelo was the first guy to give a signing bonus to any kid that was born in the West End. Because the next day he would show up at the house with a pizza. Angelo, Lou, and I, we would have never made it because of Angelo. Lou and I would have never made it in hockey. Also, you know, Angelo would find sponsors, raffles. He would buy raffles, buy whatever he had to do to get tickets, because he became the manager. Because after his net minding went astray, he became the manager, and he did all these things for us. So anyway, I can remember we had a lamp. I think we got it from Orzetti's Furniture, and for a strange reason, for 8 years, no one won the lamp. And what Louis was saying about all the guys from the West End, you know that 1967, Lou, the first expansion of the NHL went from 6 teams to 12 teams. There were 12 players from Sault Ste. Marie in the NHL, and there was 12 teams. And everybody had to go through Angelo to get there. I think he deserves a hand for that one. I'm not going to give you another toast, Angelo, because we've done enough. But anyway, I got to tell you a story that when we started the Sioux Hockey Clinic, we would have meetings all the time at Angelo's house. And Jerry Bombaco, he was there. We had different people there. But anyway, we would always meet at Angelo's home. And through the summer, I would call him all the time. But for some reason, every time I called him, I got the wrong number. And sure enough, I'd say, "Is Angelo there?" And the guy would answer, and he'd say, "No, there's no Angelo here." "Oh, sorry, hung up." Now maybe I do it 2 or 3 more times. Can I speak to Angelo? There's no Angelo here. No, I call him like 4 times. The last time I called him, I said, "Is Angelo here?" "Hey, how many times I'm telling you, there is no Angelo here." And he slammed the phone. Now I go to a meeting, and Angelo's got 3 or 4 or 5 phones there, and I said, "Guys, you got to get on the phone." I said, "I got this guy going." They all get on the phone. I said, "Wait." So now I called the number. By now I knew this guy's number. So I call it. He answers, "Hello?" And I say, "Hey, this is Angelo. Did anybody call me?" And if you talked about Angelo, anytime you went to the rink, you always found Pete Taylor, our trainer. Right, Ange? God bless him. I'm so happy I'm able to help deaf boys, and I think Pete Taylor is the one that inspired me to help deaf people, because he was amazing. He never spoke. He couldn't hear. But I'll never forget the time we went on a trip to North Bay. First time we ever took a bus trip. We're all traveling to North Bay. Wow. And we're going to play against a team, and we're playing against Frank Mahovlich from Timmins. Well, anyway, we go, we play, we practice. One day after practice, we're walking back to the hotel, and Pete Taylor comes up to us and he says, I gotta, we knew I gotta go. And he's taking off. Now here's Pete, takes off. Now we come walking around the corner, and strike me, Lord, strike me dead. But here, Pete Taylor is in a phone booth with the phone up to his ear, and he's peeing in the phone booth. Redundant or what? Oxymoron or what? The next time, when I was with the Dorans, Pete Taylor, and we played with the Dorans, they talked about us winning the championship. It was a fantastic thing. Well, the next time we're sitting in the dressing room, and all of a sudden Pete comes up to our coach and he says, "Coach," in his sign language, "today we're going to change the underwear." So our coach comes in, and Abby Neccarado comes in, said, "Today, Pete said we're changing the underwear." I say, number 8, you change with number 12. 14, you change with 12. You know, we started this hockey school for deaf boys 46 years ago. Stan Mikita and I, and a fella who owned the Leon Sausage Company in Chicago. His son was deaf, and he kept getting cut. So Stan called me, and he said, I know you know about hockey schools, but Irv's son is getting cut all the time from the teams. He says, we want to start a deaf hockey school. Would you come down? Now, Stan Mikita ended up being one of my best friends. He calls me around October, and and he says, "Did you get your trophy?" I says, "What trophy?" And he said, "Didn't you get the Prince of Wales trophy? We ended up first." He said, "No." I says, "Or your ring? You didn't get your ring either?" I said, "No." What happened is, over the summer, I got a call from Tommy Ivan, and I had just played with the Blackhawks. And Tommy Ivan said, "Gene, we're offering you a 3-year contract." I'm like, "Yeah, that's not bad." I hardly played in Chicago. I was on the bench all the time. In fact, Billy Ray loved me so much, he kept me right beside him, right on the bench. So Tommy Ivan comes out, he says 3 years, and I said, "Well, no." I said, "There's no way." I said, "I'm not." I said, for me, I want to play in the NHL, and I did that, and forget it, I'm not doing that. And then I said, and by the way, I says, "Who are you to sit in your ivory tower and tell me what to do with my life? I haven't even gone through waivers." And I hung up the phone. So about 2 weeks later, he calls me back. And let me tell you, the old managers, they were a little thin-skinned. The first thing he says to me, "Gene," "Yes?" "You got a lot of nerve saying I'm sitting in my ivory tower." 2 weeks later, he says, "You get yourself down to into the Western League for 3 years." So Stan Mikita had gone into the office, and for him to go, and he picks up the trophy, the Prince of Wales trophy, and the ring, and he sends it to me. So then, people wonder why I've been with Stan Mikita for 46 years. I've been paying him back for 45 years. So our first hockey camp, I go down there, our first hockey camp, in fact, this boy that asked the question of Stan, right now he's like 50 years old. Okay. Actually, he would be 58 because we started 46 years ago. So anyway, we're standing there, and all of a sudden Stan's talking to the kids. And the kids, he puts up his hand, this little guy. He says, "Mr. Mikita, are you a ventriloquist?" Stan says, "No." He says, "Why?" "Would you please move your lips?" So I decided, we got to do something about this. So I'm going to make signs for the deaf and hearing. So I get all the kids, I make the signs, I put them down, I draw it up, and we hand it all to the kids. So there's their kids. I got a priest beside me who did, when one of our boys passed away, he came over and did the mass and everything, and so he became our interpreter. So there I am with all these deaf kids, and I got the signs going. Because I wanted to be on the bench, and I wanted the guy to go to the left wing. I'm not going to spell out left wing in sign language. I'm just going to go L. Go to the left wing. And I want you to go right wing. I'm going to have an R, and I'm just going to say, go to right wing. Or center, play center. Or left defense. I want you on left defense. Because I'm on the bench or on the ice, sometimes I got to have that. Or right defense, fine? Or goal. Let's say goal. This will be goal. No, remember this. Oh, and then I said, remember now, coach. This is coach. So anyway, and now obviously the most important thing is puck. This is puck. Okay, so now I decide I'm going to do all the rules. So I'm going through them all with the priest beside me, and everything's going fine until I come to the sign for puck. And inadvertently I went, "This is puck." The priest nudged me and said, "Gene, that means, no, this is puck." So now I go on the ice with the kids. I go out on the ice. Sure enough, 45 years later, some of these guys are going to me. Sometimes in the West End, it seemed like we were never good enough. If you scored 3 goals, they say you should have got 4. And let me tell you, I know Don Cherry got a little problem. We had no prima donnas in Sault Ste. Marie. Let me tell you, in our day, this just never happened. But everybody found out what it was like. In fact, remember Al Siriano? He built Al's Diner. Beautiful. It was a fantastic place. Right? It was like the place to go. And he's done bright lights, Al's Diner. But Al found out, Tut Diodati. Tut Diodati, one of the all-time greats, walks into Al's Diner. And he says, "Al, this is a beautiful place. I love it. But you spelled dinner wrong." Everybody had 2 names, 2 first names mine was Jeannie. Jeannie! Everybody, or you had a nickname. And nothing better than, we got to talk about the team that I was a bat boy with, and so was Phil Srirachi. He was a senior, I was the junior. And let me tell you, you want to talk about a ball team and some of the people on that team. In fact, I could do this from memory, I think, but I put it down here, and some of the people that played on that team, like at catcher, we had Chinky Smith. I don't know how he ended up in the West End, but he was a great catcher. We had Buster Thorburn. We even had Bruno Gassi play catcher once in a while, especially if Mario Francescuti was pitching. Then we had the Bergermans, Art and Tony, the great pitchers. Then we had Ronnie Lay. I don't know how that happened. He was at third base. And then at shortstop, we had Tashi Majic, Joey Verdoni, And of course, the all-time greatest, who was a strong man, Plug DeLuca. At first base, we had John Marasco, and by the way, the only guy that could beat him in an argument is here tonight, and that's Joey DePasquale. Where is Joey? Because Johnny Marasco never lost an argument. Never lost an argument. Well, they won a couple of Canadian championships. And then I've got to compliment the Marconi Society, because one of the greatest summers I ever had was when the Marconi Hall sponsored League Baseball, Little League Baseball. It was wonderful. They supplied the bats, the balls, and everything. We picked up teams. You remember that, Vince? And I'll never forget Morley Arstad. He played. He was a catcher, and he told me after the game we played him. He says, "You know what? This is the first time I passed Gore Street." As a kid, I had so many memories of riding my bike down James Street, past all the shops and the vendors. You could smell the aroma of the bread being made at Rossi's Bakery. I got to tell you, though, we were really little rascals, because what we would do, we'd take our hockey sticks, we would put nails in our hockey stick, and then we'd go by Rossi's Bakery, and there was a fence, but we'd lean behind the fence, and the bread was out cooling, so we had the hockey stick and we speared the bread, and we grabbed the bread. All right. Then we would go through the gardens, all the gardens, and we'd pick up this and that and here and there, and then we'd go to our fortress, right, Louis? We had a fortress, and we'd have a banquet. So the Little Rascals, another place we would go to, and during the war, just after the war, because when I was born, there was a war. Anyway, in fact, I can remember at the corner of Albert and James Street, you talk about Broadway and confetti. Well, the street corner at Albert and James Street, we had a couple of buildings, large buildings, your uncle's excuse me, do try. Yeah, this grandpa's place, V.E. Greco, and they had a tall building, and then there was Bonifero's, the West End Hardware. Well, let me tell you, I can remember as a little guy standing there in 1944, and I'm telling you, I was in confetti up about a foot high. The confetti was coming down. It felt like Broadway for us, okay? So another business that was there that we would go to, and we would collect, during the war, we would collect metal. Anything, copper, anything that we could find. We go along the tracks with our little wagon, then we go to a place called Palarmi. Palarmi. Everybody knew him as Palarmi. I just found out about a year ago, his real name was Paul Army. But to the Little Rascals, we would go there, and we would bring our wares with us with our wagon, and sure enough, he only gave us 20 cents every time we went. It didn't matter how much we gave him, he gave us 20 cents. So finally, we got, a little wiser. We said, that's not fair. So we used to go to the back of Paul Army, where he had all his scrap. And we cut a little hole in the back, and we'd go in there and we'd take out from the back, and then we go around the front and sell it to him. Well, one day he finally finds out, and holy cow, we scoot out of there. We go across James Street, across the ball field, and we're running for the fortress. But let me tell you, I couldn't run. I'm laughing so hard, I can't run. Doesn't he throws an axe at me? And it lands on right at my feet. And my buddies, the bigger rascals, are hollering at me, "Pick it up and throw it back at him." I said, "Are you out of your mind?" So we did make it to our fortress. And I got to tell you about our fortress. I'll tell you how big it was. When it burned down one day, I don't know what happened. maybe another gang burned it, because we used to have gangs then. But it was fun gangs. And anyway, the biggest thing for us, though, we made it, because the next day in the Sioux Star, there was a big little a headline that said, "One room home." Burned today into the West End. And we were going, yeah! Oh, God. Like I've told people in my hockey career, well, if you got a minute, I got to go, keep going here. 1958, my hockey career lasted from 1958, if you count St. Mike's, maybe 1955 to 1970, BC. Yeah, no, not before Christ, before cash. Early in my career, when I was at St. Michael's College, we were playing against Guelph, the Guelph Biltmores. And one of the guys on the Guelph team, who later became a star with the Toronto Maple Leafs and made a lot of money. So I think I could poke him a little bit. His name was Eddie Shack. I don't know if you recall Eddie Shack, Clear the Track Shack. Well, we were at St. Mike's, so we'd go to school. So whenever Eddie came by, we heard he hadn't gone to school too much or whatever. Every time he came by the bench, we would be there and we would say, "Eddie, dog, D-O-G." And he's swinging around. The next time he comes, "Eddie, cat, C-A-T." Sure enough, Eddie picks up the puck, goes in on net, scores the goal. It's a winning goal, comes over to our bench, stops in front of the bench, and he says, "Goal, G-O-O-L." Let me say, all I ever wanted to do was play hockey in the NHL. I truly believe that my upbringing in the West End helped me achieve my goal by my perseverance and never give up attitude that I learned here in the West End. I love the way Foster Hewitt described the NHL. It was as if it was a heavens league and only gods played there. And at 5'8", 140, I sure wasn't any god, but I had to work at it. I didn't keep a diary as a kid, but I did keep visual memories in my heart and in my soul, and I hope that's portrayed in my paintings. I personally want to thank you for all being here. This truly is an honor. In closing, I will just leave you with this poem, one that kind of keeps me grounded. When you get what you want in your struggle for life, for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to a mirror and look at yourself and see what the man in the glass has to say. You may be top scorer and gather a sum, and the world says, "Boy, what a wonderful guy." But the man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. Well, here's looking at you straight in the eye and thanking you for everything. I hope I didn't stumble around too much. Here's to you.
Thank you, Gene. Outstanding speech. Well done. Thank you. And thank you for sharing those memories with us. Well, we hope you've enjoyed honoring our guests here this evening. So the last item on our agenda, before you get Mike Nanne's autograph, is to auction off this wheel of cheese here, and it was donated by Ralph Kyoto, who is in Mississauga, Toronto, same thing, right? You're whispering, I can't hear you. You're Italian, speak loud. Oh, okay. So he is a friend of Orlando Rose's, and he has generously donated this wheel of cheese. The value of this cheese is $1,500. So we're going to auction it off and help support the Marconi Cultural Center. All right, so let's get the bidding going on this wheel of cheese. Angelo Bambaco has just donated $5. Now, you know you're in the West End when your first bid is $5. Value of the cheese is $1,500. We're going to start it at $500. 500? Harvey? 500. Okay. We have 500. 1,000. We have $1,000 here from Mr. Rosa. 1,000. How about 1,100? 1,100. Who's going to go 11? Raise your hands high in the air. 1,100 right here. Thank you. 12. 11's the bid. How about 12? We got 1,100. You got 12? You got 12 because he's paying, right? Beautiful. Good job. Now, that's a smart person right there. 1,200. How about 13? Who's going to go 13? Who's going to go 13? We got 1,200 on the cheese. 1,200. Who's going to go 13? 13? 13 there. Thank you. 13 at the back. How about 14? 1,400. We got 13 at the back. Let's go 14. Let's go 1,400. 14 here. Thank you very much. So since we're at 14, let's get it to $1,500. Who's going to go 15? We've got 1,400 in the middle here. 1,500 at the back. You know there's no wine that goes with that, right? It's just the cheese. 1,500 at the back. 15. How about 16? Who's going to go 16? Who's going to go 16? We got 1,500. We got 1,500. Who's going to go 16? Who's going to go 16? We got 1,500 in the middle. 1,500. Who's going to go 16? 1,600 right here. Thank you very much. How about 17? 16's the bid. How about 17? We got 1,600. How about 17? We got 1,600. $1,600. Anybody at 17? 1,700 right here. Thank you very much. How about 18? We got $1,700. Let's go 18. 17's the bid. Let's go 18. Who's going to go 18? We got 17. We got 17. 18. Thank you. Who's going to go 19? 19? We got 18 in the middle. 19? 19? Yes? 19? 1,900 here. Thank you. All right, so we got 1,900. If we can get 19, we're going to get 2,000. 19's the bid. Who's going to go 2,000? We got 1,900 here. Who's going to go 2,000? 19's the bid. Let's get it to 2,000. Thank you very much. 2,000 is the bid. Anybody at 2,100? Anybody at 2,100? Be lots of cheese at Quattro next month. 2,100. No, what do you got? 2,000's the bid? 2,000's the bid? Who's going to go 21? Anybody at 21? 2,100 here. Thank you very much. How about 22? Anybody at 22? We got 2,100 here. 21's the bid. Anybody at 22? Anybody at 22? 21's the bid. 21's the bid. 21's the bid. Anybody at 22? Anybody at 22? 21 going once. 21 going twice. Sold. $2,100. Thank you very much. Thank you, Frank. You'll be eating pasta for the next 6 months, but congratulations. Again, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Marconi Society Cultural Center, thank you so much for attending. We hope you had a great night, and we hope to see you again. Thank you very much.